This week on Cyber School, we've got a new product release, and the product that we're going to be releasing is called our SIP Dual Relay Controller, part number 011484. And what is this product? Well, it's a SIP-enabled relay controller, which gives you the capability to actuate with a normally open or normally closed style relay with SIP functionality that would be commonly found on CyberData products, such as DTMF. These onboard relays are going to support a higher voltage than the standard onboard relays of products like our intercoms, and these are going to support up to 12 amps at 250 volt AC or 12 amps at 24 volt DC. So that gives you a lot of capability to connect to, of course, different door strikes, gate controllers, or other products that might need to be enabled by a relay. And in some situations, this device can actually supply power to door strikes, as long as that door strike is using 12 volts at 500 milliamps. And this unit is going to launch at $399 MSRP. So what does this device actually do? Well, of course, it's a SIP-enabled device, so it's going to be able to receive a SIP call, and you can trigger the onboard relay via DTMF. This unit also has onboard sensor inputs, and when those sensor inputs are triggered, they can either trigger a SIP call or multicast or do both simultaneously. So that way, if a sensor is triggered in a particular location, the device can handle that notification based on that, and you can select what kind of notification is output from the device. This unit supports 1 to 2 accessory buttons, so that way you can go and actually trigger some kind of an action from the device just with a simple button press without interacting with any kind of VoIP device. And this can be used as an exit device, an exit button, or some other use case that you might use this particular device with. This unit also comes with power ports to actually illuminate the CyberData 011508 remote call button. So that way you get a nice blue LED around the remote accessory call button. And that way you can actually just go and know exactly where that button is. It makes it very easy to use in potentially dimly lit areas. Accessory buttons can also, of course, trigger a SIP call from the unit, so they can create an alert just by simply pressing the button, or they can activate the onboard relay of the device itself. These onboard relays can, of course, be pulsed independently or together simultaneously, meaning actuating both relays at the same time. And this unit does launch with airlock functionality, so that way it can be used in an airlock or a single door independently or both doors simultaneously. It has a lot of different functionality in terms of how to interact with the different onboard relays. So let's talk about some applications of this relay controller. Of course, it's going to be used to control a door where an intercom is not necessarily required. And some examples of that might be an exterior door where a customer already has a really good existing camera system. They might have gone out and spent a good deal of money on a fancy infrared camera system and be able to monitor that very sufficiently. And they might not have a need for an intercom. So that could be a very good use case for it there. But it could also be used on an interior doorway, something for like a stock area or some way where you wouldn't necessarily need an intercom for an interior door, like a nurse call station as an example. People check in with a nurse and you don't necessarily need an intercom right there by the nurse to actually actuate the door. They can just either trigger it via DTMF or just press one of those remote accessory call buttons. It can also be really useful in a shipping and receiving area if you've got a very specific area for that and you want to prevent entry to where they might be containing those particular deliveries. And just to keep it a little bit more secure, they can be used in places like that. But it can also be used in a garage or automotive shops to control the different roll-up doors. So that way, at the start of the day, somebody can just press a button right there on the desk. It triggers the onboard relays and roll-ups the roll-up doors. That way, they can start changing tires or changing mufflers. But it can also be used in non-door related scenarios because, again, all this unit is doing when it activates its onboard relays is controlling some kind of device that it's connected to, which is typically a door, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like that. It can be used for IoT, Internet of Things, sensor notification. So if you've got kind of a smart sensor in some kind of location and you want a phone call when that particular sensor is triggered, this unit is absolutely perfect for that. But it can also be used to trigger onboard relays of anything that's going to use some kind of a solenoid to actually trigger. And that could be something like a fan system, Could be, of course, a door. It could be all sorts of different things. And it gives you a lot of capability with the relay controller. So let's go through kind of an example use case when you're working with a door. And let's imagine that we're dealing with a nurse check-in station for a COVID testing center, where somebody's going to come in and they're going to check in with the nurse and probably provide some kind of documentation to prove who they are. And the nurse can confirm that and confirm that they have a particular appointment at a certain time. And instead of interacting with the customer and potentially, contaminating them and the other people that work at the location, they can simply press one of the remote call buttons that are right there at the nurse desk, and it can unlock the door for the patient to go through into the testing area. So that way they can just simply press the button without getting up from their desk. That button press tells the SIP relay controller to trigger its onboard relay, and it'll actually open the door. And the nice thing is if this door is equipped with a door sensor relay, it can actually detect when the door is left ajar or left open and can send a message out back across the network via multicast to just let everyone know that the door is still left ajar and somebody can walk over and close that. So that kind of gives you an example door use case and kind of a standard application for the SIP dual relay controller. As we move on to a non-door use case scenario, because this product can be used in a lot of different scenarios, let's think about a greenhouse. And this is a greenhouse where they might have staff there, frequently, of course, during the day, but maybe in after hours. It could be a very expensive kind of plant that they're maintaining in there. It could be, say, a big rose garden. It could be something cannabis related, what have you. The plants really aren't particularly important, but they're using a third-party humidity sensor, and it's got a particular preset value to trigger its onboard relays when the humidity hits a particular value. And this becomes really powerful in active hours or in after hours where there might only be a security guard or just a few people actually there at the facility. And if the sensor goes and actually triggers its onboard relay while that's connected to the dual relay controller sensor inputs, it can go and notify the users actually at the location that the humidity sensor in a particular location is too high, say in greenhouse 1. They they get a phone call to their SIP phone and it says humidity sensor alert in greenhouse number 1. So the tech will walk over there and just verify that there's no expensive equipment maybe that got left in there from the crew after, and check some more precise equipment just to make sure that the humidity is at the particular level that it should be or should not be. And depending on the actual humidity of the location, they can press one of CyberData's remote call buttons, part number 011508, to actually trigger the humidity control system for that particular greenhouse. In this scenario, the humidity was rising and it got too high, and they kick on the fan to help ventilate the area and help reduce the humidity in that location. But it could work in the inverse, where they press a button and it triggers sprayers to help increase the humidity. But this is just a good example of how the device can function in a scenario that might not actually use doors and more of an IoT sensor control style situation. And there are probably a lot of other systems out there today that can go and monitor humidity in a particular location and take an activation based on that, but they might not be able to send out a notification. And that might be really helpful for different locations where they want to be able to monitor and have somebody come over and check more precise tools in a particular facility before they actually go and say kick on the fans or kick on the sprayers to control humidity in that particular location. Finally, let's talk about some associated CyberData products that would really complement the dual relay controller. Since this unit, of course, when it's used, is going to predominantly send off multicast or make a SIP call when one of its onboard sensors are triggered or when a relay button is pressed, it's going to give you the capability to display those notifications. And products like our SIP outdoor RGB multicolor strobe, part number 011479, are really good for that because they're outdoor rated and they give that visual notification that something is going on. So if it's going to be used in a location where hearing protection is required, that visual notification is extremely important. Next, we move on to a very good product for giving actual auditory notification, and that would be our SIP IP66 indoor outdoor horn, part number 011457. And of course, this is a horn that's great at making auditory notification. It's very loud. It covers around 7,500 square feet, and it can provide a really good auditory notification of something like, say, a door being left open or the humidity sensor being too high in a greenhouse, and gives you that really good capability in an indoor outdoor environment. But sometimes you don't really want a horn, say in your office environment. You might want something like a speaker. So you could use something like our SIP talkback speaker, part number 011398. And that would be a lot more useful in, say, an office environment or a guard check where you might want that full duplex communication in standard uses, but it can also play notifications from the dual relay controller. So it makes it a really powerful addition to have in kind of your indoor areas where you might want some kind of notification. Then finally, we've got our remote call button. And this is a really good accessory unit that can tie in specifically with the dual relay controller and actually provide activation of the relay controller on a simple button press. And that's part number 011508. The SIP dual relay controller is a really powerful product, and it gives you a lot of capability to go and enhance your standard offering to different customers. Of course, this unit is going to give you the capability to control a door where an intercom is not necessary, and that can be places like an interior doorway for storage, or an exterior doorway if you're dealing with something like a camera system that is already very high tech and very capable, where you really wouldn't need an intercom, and that would be something like, oh, that would be overkill. But it can also be a really economical option to control a door with a single push button and phone system control. So if you're looking for something, say like a nurse call station, where you just want the capability to unlock a door and you don't need an intercom, where our standard offering in the past would be an intercom paired with a networked dual door strike relay, that gets a little pricey. And this gives you a lot more of an economical option to control a door and still get that notification through your phone system at $399 MSRP, which gives you a lot of cool capability and really reduces cost and is a good entry point if you want some way to control a door through your phone system. And the nice thing is with its onboard relay capability, it gives really easy integration to existing sensors for a notification system. So if you've got some kind of existing notification system that's using different IoT sensors, something like a humidity sensor, a gas sensor, a temperature sensor, what have you, it easily integrates with that as long as these different sensors have something like an onboard relay where they can go and trigger when they hit a particular preset value. And this can also double as an IoT controller, where a lot of IoT controllers are kind of build them yourselves. You get a Raspberry Pi and mod something up on a breadboard, or you're buying a very expensive proprietary system. Since this system uses just a regular relay controller and the open source system that is SIP, it makes it very, very easy to go and kind of create your own IoT controller with CyberData's dual relay controller.
Thank you for watching this edition of Cyber School. If you have any questions, please get in contact with our sales department. They are available by email at sales@cyberdata.net or by phone at 831-373-2601 extension 334. Please make sure to like this video and subscribe for more content like this from CyberData.